Produced by Liang Gu, The Evil Will Not Suppress the Right, author, Zhao Shuli. Chapter 1, It's Too Deceiving. On the Mid-Autumn Festival of 1943, Ruanying, the daughter of Wang Jucai of Xiahe village, was engaged to Lu Zhong, son of Lu Shiyuan of the same village. The Lu family gave gifts to Jucai's family on this day. On the first day of gathering wealth, he invited his brother-in-law from Shanghe village to prepare a banquet for the matchmaker. After a busy day, he finally prepared everything. On the 15th day, Jucai got up a little later because he felt a little unhappy. Before he got up, he heard someone in the courtyard say, "Congratulations. I'm here to help." As soon as he heard it, he recognized that he was a poor old man from the village. Although this old man is poor, he is not a bad person. He does not steal or blackmail. If someone has a big event, marriage, funeral, he will help him if he can get along. As a favor, I want some leftover steamed buns for a meal. If we don't get along, we won't go even if we're hungry. For example, Jucai's in-law Lu Shiyuan was a well-known wealthy man within a radius of 20 miles, but he would not go to him. Jucai was just an ordinary farmer, but he wanted to come to him. He came and said a few auspicious words. Just sweeping the yard, carrying water, and getting down to work. Jucai slept for a little while, and then heard his wife say in the courtyard, "An F.A. You came here early? Is his grandmother here too? Jin Sheng. Quickly catch your grandmother's basket. Anfa. My sister is not someone else. You are also miserable and anxious. Why are you buying these things? Dog. Come, auntie, let's see if you've gained weight. Why don't you come to my aunt's house to eat dates these 2 days? Your brother-in-law feels a little uncomfortable, and he's not up yet. Jin Sheng's wife. Let's take your mother-in-law to sit in the east room. Dad Jin Sheng. Get up quickly. The guests are here." Jucai heard that it was his brother-in-law and he was familiar with them, so he didn't get up immediately. He just shouted, "Anfa. Come and sit inside." Anfa's wife and Jinsheng's wife entered the east room. Anfa came to the north room where the wealth was gathered. It is a custom in this place that when brother-in-law and brother-in-law meet, they always make a joke. As soon as Anfa entered the door, he said to Jucai, "I can't afford it now. I just got married to the Lu family. Have you learned Lu Shiyuan's comfort?" Jucai sat up, put on his clothes and said, "Man, don't mention this marriage again. I think this is where my life will end up." When an Fa saw what he said, he got up seriously and sat down on the bed. Bien slowly persuaded him, "Don't mention him about the past. After all, we have become relatives." Jucai said, "It's too deceiving. You haven't seen Xiaodan's energy, her face pimpled. What? Do you still want to discuss it with your family? Stop being half-hearted. You can ask for more things, nothing else is negotiable. To tell you the truth, if someone is willing to marry someone like you, it finally looks like you are here. If you don't know how to praise someone, don't regret it if something happens in the future. You have also lived for 30 or 40 years. Have you ever seen such a powerful matchmaker?" Anfa said, "What did he do? Who doesn't know that Xiaodan relies on his strength?" Jucai said, "Let's just talk about the Lu family. Do we still want to be promoted by him? In the second year of the Republic of China, I followed my father to open up wasteland in Xiahe. At that time, I was only 20, and my fortune was only 18. When the Lu family met my brothers, they all said, "Where did these two begging children come from? The year I married your sister, I spent more than 10 yuan on her. Every year, the profits were insufficient, and the capital increased year by year. Until your sister gave birth to Jin Sheng, who grew up to 12, and gave another. It took a few years for people to herd cattle before they could pay off the debt." Haven't we seen enough of his expressions? Do you still expect him to promote you? Anfa said, "You're not bad at that. Don't you remember that I gave someone the 20 yuan, but later I couldn't pay it back with interest, and in the end, didn't I seek death and give someone 5 acres of land? How else could I live such a tight life?" Well, what else are you talking about? Nowadays, people are still so powerful. Whoever is found guilty should be unlucky. Now that things have come to this, we have no choice but to resign ourselves to fate. What's the use of being angry? Jinsheng's wife led Anfa's wife and the dog into the east room. See Ruanying lying with her face facing the wall. Jinsheng's wife said, "Sister, don't cry. Who do you think is coming?" Ruanying had long heard that it was her sister-in-law, but she couldn't wipe away her tears. When she saw his sister-in-law walking in, she had to get up while wiping her tears and said, "Sweetheart, sit down quickly. Sister-in-law, look, I have grown 17 years old. What has happened to me?" Anfa's wife said, "How loud is the little kid? The horoscope hasn't even been seen yet, so why is it called a result? Marriage is supposed to be destiny. What could possibly be wrong? Besides, people don't have front and back eyes." The present may seem unsatisfactory, but it may be a blessing in the future. Life is long, and who can tell in advance what outcome someone will have in the future? Jutsai's wife also came to the east room and said, "He's a girl. Please give me some advice, Ruoying. I've been worried to death these days. Ever since Xiaodan came to propose marriage on the 3rd day of junior high school, she has been crying and crying until now. Do parents still want to harm their daughters? Are your brother-in-law and I willing to join the Lu family? God." Lu Shiyuan opened his mouth, and Xiaodan was a matchmaker. "You want to. Can we say we don't want to?" When the dog saw that they were only talking serious words, he ran outside to play. In the east room and the north room, they were talking lively when they suddenly heard Jin Sheng say in the courtyard, "The second aunt is here. Came on foot. Not riding a donkey?" The second aunt said in a low voice, "There are Japs here, who dares to ride a donkey?" Hearing that the second aunt was coming, everyone in the east room and the north room came out to greet her except Ruanying, who had not stopped crying. Some of them were called second aunt, some were called second sister, and some were called second sister. They all yelled for a while and then went to the north room to talk together. When the dog saw the second aunt coming, he ran back and asked, "Second aunt, can you bring me some groundnuts?" The second aunt said, "See how well my dog remembers things. It's been 2 years, do you still remember? The peanuts haven't been planed yet. I'll get them to you when they are." The dog heard that there were no peanuts, so he ran out again. And Fa said, "Second sister hasn't been here for 2 years. Jutsai's wife said, "Isn't it? Since Jin Xing's wife came here the year before last, she hasn't come since. The second aunt said, there is only 15 miles between the upper river and the lower river. It is not easy to come here. Firstly, there is no time. Secondly, she suddenly lowered her voice. And secondly, there are still Japs here. If your luck is bad, who knows what will happen? Anfa's wife said, that's also like, walking through the mountains takes time and space. This superstitious saying is easy to say in places where there are many wolves, which means that you are not afraid of wolves, as long as you don't run into them. There are Japanese ghosts here. Isn't there the 8th Route Army when you go up the river? Isn't that different? The second aunt said, that's different. The 8th Route Army doesn't mess around. When you go to Shanghai, you feed the animals and pay for the work when it's time to do it. How different is it like you do pulling the strings on the road here? Anfa's wife said, I don't know this. I heard that the 8th Route Army didn't kill people and fight everywhere. Why do you say he doesn't mess around? Jin Xing said, those are all the farts of Lu Shiyuan and his gang. Didn't you hear what my second uncle said? What we are fighting are bullies, traitors, and landlords. They are all the same as Lu Shiyuan in our village. The second aunt said, yes, yes. 5 families fought on the river. The first family is called Ma Yuanjing, who is Lu Shiyuan's cousin. The other 4 families are also similar to Ma Yuanjing. They used to be cannibals and biters in the village. In July, the district came up to launch a struggle, asking the villagers to settle old scores with them, and almost all their property was settled. The struggle is against those people. In my opinion, it should. Who told them to be so domineering before? Jin Xing's wife said, can't the 8th Route Army come and kill the Japanese who went down to the river and hold Lu Shiyuan back and fight? The second aunt asked, Lu Shiyuan is still so domineering now? Jutsai said, if you're not so domineering, can you force your daughter to marry someone else? The second aunt said, I've wanted to ask for a long time but couldn't find it easy to ask. I thought about it. Why did the eldest sister find a man like Lu Zhong for Ruanying? The child in the front room is already 12 or 13 years old. What should we call Ruanying? Don't you just care about people if you want a good home? From what the eldest brother-in-law said, it turns out it was forced, so what else could he say? Jutsai's wife said, look at my second sister. Need to ask? If it weren't for force, how could I have sent my daughter to his Lu family on purpose? As he spoke, he began to cry. The second aunt said, sister, please relax your mind. I have already told everyone what I have said, so what's the use of regretting it? I just blame our Ruanying for being too handsome, like a scarred lotus in the courtyard of a high-rise building, showing off at the bottom of the back cliff. No matter what, Paul doesn't have any of these things. Anfa's wife said, people don't have front and back eyes. If we had known about these troubles, wouldn't we have found a home for our daughter to send her home? Jutsai's wife said, it's your brother-in-law who delayed the matter because of his half-heartedness. Last year, his mother asked Yuan Hai to pick up the little treasure from Waishiyuan. Your brother-in-law thought that he didn't have much in the family. Jutsai gets angry when his wife talks about this. He said, don't talk about this again. Can this happen to me alone? Seeing that he was angry, everyone tried to persuade him, but he still went to the suite to sleep in anger. Anfa followed him in. chat with him and calm him down. In the outer room, Jin Sheng's wife had already been busy lighting a fire in the courtyard, leaving only 3 wives behind. Jutsai's wife whispered, "Look at your brother-in-law's temper. It's obvious that he delayed things, and he still doesn't want to tell anyone. I think it's not a bad idea to marry Xiao Bao from Waishiyuan." Anfa's wife said, "The child is a good child, capable and beautiful, but I don't blame the eldest brother-in-law for being picky. There is nothing wrong with the family." Jutsai's wife said, "In the years when Jin was born and herded cattle in the Lu family. Xiao Bao also works for Lu's family, and the 2 children get along very well. Xiao Bao is more promising than me, Jin Sheng. He was only 18 the year before last and was able to drive 2 pack mules for the Lu family. He is friends with Jin Sheng. It's always nice to come to our house when you have free time. You can do any work you find and eat good food when you find it. Be down to earth, just like our own children." When she said this, she held her throat tighter and said, "This can only be said by us sisters. Ruanying and Xiao Bao have been playing around together since we were 10 years old. We are very familiar with it. We have been careful for a long time." On Xiao Bao. Last year Yuan Hai came to talk about matchmaking. The little guy was chatting and laughing while making ramen for someone. Later, when he heard your brother-in-law said that he was not very good, he immediately pursed his lips and muttered, "If it's not very good, then it's not very good. Didn't my grandfather come here to escape the famine? Brothers who gather wealth will bring in wealth, gold, and leaguai." They all came to the north room to interrupt the gossip of the 3 wives. Jin Kai looked at the table and said, "It's 1 table short. Jin Sheng, you and Leaguai go to the west room in the backyard and bring my table." Those who carried the table carried the table, and those who borrowed the furniture borrowed the furniture. Before he was fully prepared, the puppy ran back to report that the Lu family's gift box had been brought out. Leaguai, Jin Kai, and Jinsheng all went out to receive the food boxes. Anfa put on his big blue cloth jacket and went to meet the matchmaker. It turns out that the matchmaker is just Xiaodan. Because the Lu family wanted to comply with the old saying of 3 matchmakers and 6 certificates, they put together 2 more people. One is named Lu Xian and the other is Lu Xiaoxi, Lu Xiyuan's 2 distant relatives. Yuan Hai, Lu Xiyuan's eldest son, carried a load of gift boxes. The second long worker, Xiao Chang, and the pack mule driver, Xiao Bao, were carrying a large food box. Yuan Hai walked in front, Xiao Bao, Xiao Chang, Xian, Xiaoxi, and finally Xiaodan. The 6 of them lined up in a line and walked out of the Lu family's door to Jutsai's house. Anfa's child and dog. He and another group of children who didn't even wear pants had been running around at the gate of Lu's house waiting to see them. As soon as they saw the 6 of them coming out, they shouted, come out, and ran while shouting. Ran to Jukai's house and shouted, "Coming! Coming!" Jin Sheng and the others then went out to greet them. I don't know what kind of ceremony they performed. When they arrived at the door, they stood in line and bowed with their hats on. Jin Kai and Jin Sheng caught the food box, Leaguai caught the burden, and Anfa led the 3 matchmakers and walked in a long line. The guests were divided into classes. Anfa accompanied the matchmaker to the north room, Jinsheng accompanied Yuan Hai, Xiao Chang, and Xiao Bao to the west room, and the women went to the east room. As soon as Ruanying heard that the gift giver was coming, she hid in the backyard to get rich. Go to the room. Anfa is an honest man, he can only speak a few farm words, and he can't socialize with Xiaodan. I had no choice but to talk to Xiao Si and Shi-en about how much grain to harvest from which fields, and which fields were going to be planted with wheat. Xiaodan felt that these words were uninteresting and wanted to find a place to get over her addiction to smoking first. He walked into the suite and saw Jutsai lying on the bed with a quilt. When Ju Kai saw him coming in, he sat up, covered his arms, and said to him politely, "Brother, I'm really sorry today. I'm a little sick, and I'm too cold. I can't sit with you." Xiaodan saw that he was not a person. In the smoking area, I said, "It's okay, you just lie down," and came out. He seemed to be giving an order and said to an FA, "Find me a fun place first." An FA said, "The meal is almost here. Let's eat first." Xiaodan said, "My eating is nonsense, the meal is ready. Just bring me a bowl, it's better to have fun first." An FA agreed when he saw him saying this, "Okay." He walked to the door and shouted, "Jean Kai." When Jean Kai came, he said to Jean Kai, "Would you like asking Xiao Dan to come to your backyard?" Jean Kai had no choice but to agree and led Xiao Dan to the backyard. Walk. At this time, I suddenly heard Jukai's wife shouting in the east room, "Come in, Jean Kai." Jean Kai ran to the door of the east room again. Jutsai's wife said into his ear, "Just ask him to come to your north room. Don't take him to the west room. Our Ruanying is hiding in your west room." Jean Kai nodded and led Xiaodan went. It's much easier to talk now that Xiaodan is gone. Don't forget that Xian and Xiaoxi are Lu Shiyuan's family members. They often scold Lu Shiyuan when it comes to his domineering behavior, but this time they are here to act as matchmakers for the Lu family. Although they know that this marriage is forced, the bottom cannot be broken even on the surface. Therefore, no one scolded Lu Shiyuan, only Xiaodan was regarded as Lu Shiyuan's scapegoat. As soon as Xiaodan went out, Xiaoxi pointed at his back twice. Anfa and Shiyuan shook their heads, and then they started to curse each other in a low voice. One said, "It's so bad," the other explained. A big harm. Everyone told some strange stories about Xiao Dan's blackmail and deception, and they kept talking about dinner. There were several women in the east room, and they were talking lively, but there was no serious talk, talking about whose daughter is good and whose daughter-in-law is bad. They laugh and laugh. Talking about the commander of the 8th Route Army in Shanghai and the commander of the Japanese army in Xiahe, they talked quietly and closely. Westfang talked about something else. Jin Xing asked, "Uncle Yuan Hai, how have you been living in the Lu family in the past few years? Can you take care of yourself? That is, you can take care of the family but not?" Yuan Hai said, "It's not the same as when you were there. The capital of 20 yuan can never be repaid. No matter what year it is, if we calculate the wages, it will only be enough to pay off the borrowed grain. AI. Do you think I am confused? Your two families have become relatives." Jin Xing said, "Damn that. You still don't know how these relatives were formed?" Xiaobao said, "It doesn't matter. Isn't brother Jinxing one of our own?" Xiaochang said, "Who gave him a long-term living and took advantage of him? After all, the debt is settled by others." Jinsheng, you remember, that year I drove a mule for him, and the mule took 3 yuan of medicine. Didn't he force me to deduct 3 yuan of wages? What's the point? Power is reason. Everyone in each room drank water and chatted for a while, and then it was time to eat. It is the custom in this place that when there is a big event, the guests have 2 meals. The first meal is soup and rice, the second meal is a banquet. Treating strangers is different from treating familiar customers, and treating rough customers is different from treating nice customers. Strangers and nice customers eat noodles, while familiar customers and rough customers eat glutinous rice. Although the 3 matchmakers are all from the same village, they are dealing with new relatives. They can only be regarded as strangers and serve noodles. Although Yuan Hai, Xiao Chang and Xiao Bao were doing the same thing with the matchmaker, these 3 people had already declared to Jinsheng that they did not want to be treated like strangers and would rather be treated like strangers. The rest of the guests were naturally confused. Xiaodan was smoking in the north room of the backyard, and Leaguai gave him a bowl of noodles. After the first meal, it's time to open the food box. The custom of this place is that the food boxes for gift-giving are not only filled with edible things, but can be filled with any kind of gifts, according to custom. The first layer is for jewelry and crowns, the second layer is for thick and thin clothes, and the third layer is for dragons and phoenixes. Bread, the fourth layer is wine. Meat, rice. If the well-matched landlords and gentry are giving gifts and have a lot of things, they can use 2, 3, or up to 8 food boxes. When giving gifts to poor families, some people don't use food boxes and just choose a pair of wooden boxes that are about 2 feet square. There are also those that only use 2 baskets. Although the Liu family is a landowner, the girl's family is a farmer and she is still remarried, so she is a bit contemptuous. However, it is too ordinary and it feels a bit unlike the Liu family style, so she carried a food box. Picked up another load of wooden boxes. I couldn't get it up or down. Before opening the food box, you must first invite the matchmaker to you. Jutsai's wife sent Leaguai to invite Xiaodan. Leaguai came back and said, "Please don't move." He said that 2 people will be present. Xian and Xiaoxi said, "Then open it." It is customary to open the food box. You have to burn incense first. Jinsheng burned the incense on behalf of the owner and opened it. Opening the food box almost always leads to a quarrel. It is the custom of this place that gifts are always requested by the girl's family. When a man's family receives an order from a woman's family, they almost always think it's too much, so they have to give some discount when giving it away. For example, if you want 2 pairs of earrings, you will get only 1 pair. If you want 5 tails of bracelets, and you will only get 3 tails of bracelets, you will naturally quarrel for a while after they are delivered. If the 2 in-laws have something on their minds, the quarrels will become more violent. On the day of gift-giving, the bride's family invited some women like aunts and aunts to come and quarrel with the matchmaker for a while. As a matchmaker, if you can push it, just push it. If you can't push it, just say, "Go back and ask your relatives to make up for it." Because the Jutsai family was reluctant to get married, they naturally wanted more. The Liu family didn't give away anything, so naturally they weren't afraid of amassing money to change their tune, but he didn't want to deliberately make them angry. He had all the things, and if he could give them away, he would get a wife in the future. I brought them all back intact one by one. It was not a matter of losing money, so they were presented in a decent way. For example, I asked for 2 pairs of gold earrings and 2 pairs of gold rings, and was given a pair of gold and a pair of silver. Only the gold bracelets were not given, and I was given a pair of gold-plated ones. There are a lot of silk and satin clothes, but they all belonged to Lu Zhong's previous wife. They were a little narrower for Ruanying to wear. No matter good or bad, since the girl's family is angry, it will explode. Jutsai's wife stopped looking at the jewelry and clothes, and said to Xian and Xiaoxi, "We have never seen these clothes given by our in-laws on the big market, so we dare not say that they are not good. Unfortunately, our daughter is fatter and can't wear them. The number of pieces of jewelry is not enough, and the styles are all the same as those from the past 20 years. None of them are current. Please take it back and ask your in-laws to exchange it." Although the words were very soft, there was a bone in them, and it couldn't be said in a few words. Xian was a little older and could still speak a few words, so he spoke from a distance. He said, "Sister-in-law Jutsai. Relatives have become relatives. Don't make things too difficult for that relative. You think, where can you buy so many new things now that the war is in chaos? Naturally, what counts is what counts. This is just for show. When our daughter comes out, are you afraid she won't be wearing anything? Which piece is inappropriate? Our daughter is his wife. How can he ask our daughter to dress up and go out to embarrass him?" Before he finished speaking, his second aunt took over. The second aunt said, "You can't push it very close. His Lu family is also one of the richest men within dozens of miles and can afford a wife. Can't afford to make clothes or buy jewelry. Just rely on what the damn wife used to wear to count." Anfa's wife also continued, "No. For the first time in her life, my niece cannot wear his shabby things." Jinsai's wife held up the gold-plated bracelet and said, "We only give away old things that are worn out. Who doesn't know that Lu Zhong's previous wife wore a gold bracelet worth 62 pounds? Why send this gold-plated one?" Jin Xing's wife also said, "This is really catching a bumpkin. He thinks we bumpkins don't recognize gold and silver." In fact, among these women, only 2 of them have seen gold jewelry, but they have never used it, and they don't necessarily recognize it. They just noticed that the pair of bracelets were not the ones on the arms of Lu Zhong's previous wife, and they were also old. There were some places. It seems that the silver is exposed in vain. Therefore, it was concluded that it was plated goods. When Xian and Xiaoxi saw that things were not going well, they stepped down and pushed Xiaodan. Xian said, "It turned out that Xiaodan was responsible for making orders for things. Neither of us could figure out how much we asked for or how much we agreed to." An FA said, "I made the order." "That's not wrong." Xiaoxi said, "It's better to invite Xiaodan to come." Jukai's wife said, "If you invite him, just invite him. It's just that if he asks for more things, it's okay, but if he doesn't agree, it won't work. It's no longer up to me to kiss or not, and it's not up to me to ask for things. Then only Lu Shiyuan will survive. Leaguai, please go to the backyard and invite Xiaodan over." Leaguai said, "Please don't move." Xiaoxi said, "Xiaobao. You go for it." Xiaobao went. Xiaobao didn't know that Xiaodan was in the north house, and Jin Kai had always lived in the west house, so he kept running to the west house. He was on his way to call Uncle Xiaodan. Suddenly I saw Ruanying. Ruanying was lying facing the wall when she heard someone walking. She turned over and was about to get up. When she saw it was Xiaobao, she lay down again and said, "You? Who do I think this is?" Xiaobao whispered. Said, "Auntie asked me to find Xiaodan." Ruanying pointed with her mouth and said, "In the north room." Xiaobao turned around and was walking out. Ruanying stopped him again and said, "Come here later, I'll talk to you." Xiaobao nodded and went to the north room to call Xiaodan. At this time, Xiaodan had smoked enough. When Xiaobao said that there was something going on outside and he had to do it, he muttered, "Women can really cause trouble. Isn't that what it's like if we keep arguing for a while?" With that said, he walked out. When the women saw him coming out, they argued with him again about what they had just said about clothes and jewelry being inappropriate, but he agreed simply. He said, "Forget it. What you all said is useless. Which store can give gifts without making a fuss? Which gift-giving place can be so noisy that you have to carry your things back? No matter what you say, it doesn't matter. My daughter is already married to someone else." Jutsai's wife said, "Which one of you is born to be bad?" According to that, Xiaodan was already impatient. If he didn't continue listening, he rolled his eyes and said, "No, you can do whatever you want. I'll just stop here." Jutsai's wife said, "Oh my God! How can there be such a powerful matchmaker in the world? Just take a knife and kill me." Xiaodan said, "Why should I kill you? Can you go and negotiate with the Lu family in person? If you can't control it, why should I leave it alone? No matter." As he said this, he pushed everyone away and walked out. Anfa was so anxious that he ran forward and stretched out his arms to stop him. The other men also came over to say good things. Even Jutsai put on his clothes and came out to ask what was going on. After all, everyone persuaded Xiaodan to stop. It was already noon. Jinsheng and his uncle urged the banquet to begin, and Leaguai placed dishes on each table. After a while, everything was ready, the guests were all seated, and everyone was ordered, except for Xiaobao. Jinsheng ran around and shouted, and Xiaobao ran out from the backyard. It turned out that after Xiaobao called Xiaodan out, he went to the west room in the backyard to see Ruanying. Xiaobao asked Ruanying what he wanted to say, and Ruanying said, "Wait a minute. Let me think about it first." Then he counted with his fingers. She counted and thought and counted again. Xiaobao asked anxiously, "Just count what?" She said, "Don't make a mess." She counted again and said, 27 days left. Xiaobao said, "What are you doing for 27 days?" She said, "You don't know?" September 13th. Xiaobao suddenly remembered that the Lu family decided to marry her on September 13th, so he agreed to her and said, "I know." From August 15th to September 13th, there are still 29 days. Ruanying said, "Today is almost over, it can't be counted as a day. August is Xiaojian, except for one day." Xiaobao said, "It doesn't matter how many days it is, what do you think?" Ruanying said, "What do you think? What do you think?" Xiaobao couldn't agree. The two looked at each other for a while, neither of them saying anything. Suddenly Ruanying sang in a low voice like a singer, "Brother Bao. There are still 27 days. As he sang, tears streamed down his eyes. Xiaobao kept persuading, but Ruanying just cried. Just then, Jinxing shouted outside, Xiaobao! Xiaobao! Xiaobao felt that there were 2 hot tears on his face at this time. He quickly wiped it away, but the more he wiped it, the more it flowed. After wiping it for a long time, I don't know if I have dried it off, but because there was so much shouting outside, I had no choice but to run outside. After a short pause after the banquet, the guests will go back. Before leaving, Xiaodan lectured as he walked. What else can I say about the situation in the Lu family? Don't be dissatisfied again in the future. While Anfa was seeing off the guests, he was being trained for Jutsai and was sent outside the gate to make a speech. The bow is the end. Xiaobao carried the food box and lowered his head. Along the way, he just made wild guesses about what would happen 27 days later. Chapter 2, Let's See and Then Talk. When the second aunt returned to Shanghai, she couldn't forget about Ruanying. She planned to visit Xiahe when Ruanying got married on September 13th. Unexpectedly, at the beginning of September, the 8th Route Army liberated Xiahe. Later, I heard that rent reduction and debt relief were implemented, the Lu family was also liquidated, and Lu Shiyuan died. I sent my husband to visit and found out that Anfa was also divided. Bought a house from the Lu family. Ruanying did not get married on September 13th, but she had no choice but to break off the engagement. After the new year, on the 2nd day of the 1st month of the lunar calendar, it was the time to go to her parents' house. The second aunt wanted to go down to the river to see it in person, so she got on the donkey and went down to the river with her husband. They walked to the door of Lu Shiyuan's backyard. The second aunt got off the donkey, and her husband took the donkey and led her to the new house in Anfen. The dog saw it in the yard and barked, "Mom! The second aunt is here." Anfa and Jinsheng came out of the south room to welcome her. The second aunt smiled and said, "Anfa, move here. Don't worry about it raining, right? Jinsheng, are you both here to pay your uncle a happy new year?" Anfa's wife and Jinsheng agreed, chatting and laughing as they entered the south room. The second aunt's husband said, "Anfa, where to tie the animals?" And Fa took the reins and said, "There's nowhere to tie it. Just tie it to this pillar." The second aunt's husband said, "Don't you have a place to pen the donkeys?" Anfa said, "We don't even have a donkey hair. What's the use of it? Don't think so carefully. This is much better than my house with a hole in the sky," he said and tied up the donkey. He took off his fur coat and baggage and returned to his room. As soon as he entered the door, the dog asked, "Second uncle, have you got the peanuts for me?" The second aunt said, "Look at how well my dog remembers things. Take it." Her husband untied the fur coat and got the peanuts for the dog. The second aunt also said, "Last year's peanut harvest was bad. Get more for your kids next year." Anfa's wife said, "Isn't this enough? Dog, pack a couple of them and play outside." The second aunt said, "This house is really nice. Is the ceiling made of cloth or paper?" Anfa's wife said, "It's paper." The second aunt said, "Look how good that paper is. Just like cloth. Let's not talk about staying." Never seen it before. Anfa said, "We farmers don't live here. We can't nail nails or tie ropes on the ceiling. There's no place to hang the grain seeds. They can only be placed on the windowsill. The second ant's husband said, "Then why don't you move back to your cavernous house?" Everyone laughed. The second ant said, "I haven't been here for more than 3 months. What has Xiahe become like?" Everyone said, "Much better." And Fa said, "I won't be angry with the Japanese anymore." Jin Xing said, "Lu Shiyuan can't be more powerful." The second ant's husband continued, "Your uncle doesn't live in a cave house anymore." The second ant asked, "How did Lu Shiyuan die? Did everyone beat him to death?" Jin Xing said, "No one beat him when he was defeated. The senior staff in the district didn't ask for a beating, but he was very angry." And Fa said, "That old guy is really smart. If it weren't for Yuan Hai and Xiao Chang, I don't think anyone would be able to blame him." The second ant asked, "Yuan Hai still has what ability?" Jin Xing said, "You have misunderstood Yuan Hai. In a conference with 1 or 2,000 people, Yuan Hai is the chairman. No one could speak against that old guy Lu Shiyuan. There were 5 or 6 people who spoke first. They all made him speechless. Later, Yuan Ai became anxious and said, 'Are you talking about me?' Lu Shiyuan said, 'Whatever I say is yours. I only speak based on my conscience. You have been my old friend for 20 years. You give me money and I give you a profit. You lend me grain and I give you a price. The salary every year is only long-term and not short-term. Open the account and ask everyone to see who is taking advantage of whom. What problem do I have with you?" Yuan Hai said, "I don't understand conscience, and I can't read ledgers. I'm a hired man, and I can only say the following. I have not worked in the past 20 years. What do I do every day? What do you do every day? What do I eat? What are you eating? What did I miss? What's wrong with you? I will lay down food for you to eat, and you will be blamed for eating it, and I will be counted out every year. This is how I take advantage of you. With your conscience. I've been a cow for you for 20 years, so I should end up with a debt that my ancestors can't afford to pay? Pooh! Put your conscience away. If you say that, I will still have to make up for you." After he said this, he opened the way for everyone. This said, "Anyway, I harvest grain every year and give it to you." The one said, "Anyway, my property later belongs to you." The old guy got anxious and said, "If you don't rely on the account books, you are being unreasonable." An unreasonable statement made everyone angry, and I don't know who said something about beating him. Everyone dragged the old guy down with a bang. Xiao Chang wiped his mouth with shit, and the senior staff member went up to hug him to prevent him from being beaten, and everyone was able to pull him down. The venue calmed down again. Xiao Chang pointed at the old guy's nose and said, "Lu Shiyuan, you must explain this truth clearly. You forced everyone to sell their houses, sell their land, beg for food, starve to death, sell their children. Now you are settling the score with you, and you still say that everyone is unreasonable. Who is being unreasonable?" This question made the old guy say nothing more. Later, a debt clearance committee was organized. I was preparing to settle down with him for a few days, but I didn't expect that after the struggle meeting, he died on the 3rd day. Some people say they died of anger, others say they died of drinking dirt. An FA said, no matter how he died, he was dead anyway, and he couldn't be more powerful. The second ant asked, he is dead. How to settle the account? An FA said, naturally, I had to settle with Lu Zhong later. But once he died, everyone was not so angry, and there were a lot of concessions. From other villages in this village, more than 5,000 shur of rice were paid to him, and more than 20,000 yuan was paid in foreign currency. In addition to some grain and livestock, he also provided more than 3 hectares of land and 3 houses. Today, they still have about 40 acres of rented land, more than 10 acres of self-cultivated land, and a house in the front yard. The second ant said, so there is talk of fighting against the light? Anfa said, it's nothing, nothing, nothing. 10 households like mine can't resist others. Anfa's wife was cutting vegetables when she heard Xiaochang's child Xiaogui saying in the yard, Dog. Who told you to take the peanut skin out of the yard? Sweep it. The dog said, I don't. Are you going to sweep or not? No. Crack. Xiaogui hit the dog and the dog cried. Anfa's wife opened the curtain and said, Xiaogui. Why did you hit the dog? Xiaogui said, why did he get the peanut skin down the yard? Anfa's wife said, it doesn't matter, let's get it downstairs. I'll sweep it for you. Xiaochang's wife muttered in the north room, how many times have I swept it? When an FA's wife heard this, she just pretended not to hear, and still said to Xiaogui, don't hit the dog. The dog is small and you are big. Xiao Chang's wife muttered again, it's time for you to go to heaven. An FA my wife couldn't help it any longer, so she continued, my child will be called to God. Your 12-year-old kid beats my 8-year-old kid, and you, the mother, dared him. Is my kid still alive? Hit it? Injured? If you think he didn't hit him hard enough, wouldn't you come out and hit him twice? Who has ever raised a child? My child still has a mother? I can't get used to that without my mother. Let's see if the courtyard can be kept clean for a while. People are trampling, animals are spoiling. I asked you to clean me. But I know you are divided into a donkey pen. You don't know one? Isn't your problem small? How big of a problem do you have because your man is a cadre? An FA saw that they were noisy and talking more, so he said to his wife, forget it. Can't we just say a few words? An FA's wife stopped talking, and Xiao Chang's wife was still mumbling something in the north room. The second ant asked, who lives in the north room? An FA said, you're just so angry, this hospital. Except for the house we shared, the rest all belonged to Xiao Chang. The second ant said, is he supposed to get that much? Anfa said, just this? There are still more than 20 acres of land. He has many problems and he is the director of a farmers' association, so shouldn't he get more? Do you hear how angry people are? We live in this courtyard, an isolated house. The front yard belongs to Lu Zhong, and the backyard belongs to Xiao Chang. The grinding mill belongs to other people, the mill belongs to other people, the threshing floor belongs to other people, and the restaurant and toilet belong to other people. People are obsessed with each other, and they can't stay away from them even if they move their hands and feet. In our cave room, these things. Although he is also taking advantage of his neighbor, he is an old neighbor, so he is much better off than this one. After a while, the meal was ready. While everyone was eating, they were still talking about the fight against the Lu family. The second aunt still asked everyone what questions they asked, and everyone got a lot. Old he came here carrying a sack. When he entered the door, he shouted, "Happy New Year!" He greeted everyone, and Anfa's wife brought him 2 yellow steamed buns, which he threw into the sack. Anfa's wife pointed to the front yard and said, "If you go to someone's front yard, Guanbao can ask for 2 white flour steamed buns." Leaguai said, "We just want a yellow steamed bun." "I want to eat the white flour steamed buns from Liu's family." The second aunt smiled and said, "Leaguai, didn't you turn over?" Leaguai also smiled and said, "We have no problem with them." Then he left. An FA said, "You asked me to tell you that the distribution of the fruits will not be good this time, since the higher-ups are asking the poor to stand up." Why can't I translate it if there is no problem? It's not fair to just talk about it as a problem. There are many people who can speak well. Like Xiaodan. He has been the Lu family's lackey for half his life. What's the problem with him? Who made up a problem and could actually share a mule with several kilos of food? The second aunt said. What's going on? Xiaodan also shares fruits. In Shanghai, there is even a dog-leg fight. Why do you still distribute things to those people here? Jinxing said, "Now I have become an activist again." An FA said, "Even if that person can't be cured." People pinch their heads very sharply and follow wherever they have time. As soon as the 8th Route Army arrived, Lu Shiyuan and his sons ran to a barren mountain to hide. If there was any news, Xiao Dan would send messages to others. Senior officials came to mobilize the masses to look for Lu Shiyuan. Some people said, "As long as we catch Xiao Dan, we will know." This word reached Xiao Dan's ears, and she personally went to the senior official to tell him that he also wanted to join the struggle, saying, "As long as you ask me to join, I will lead the master to capture the Lu family and his son." Senior staff member Gao told everyone, "As long as he can do this, just ask him to participate, right?" Everyone said, "If you want to participate, just participate." Anyway, everyone knows who he is and cannot be fooled by him. The next day, they indeed led people to capture the Lu family and his son. On the day of the struggle, people saw the Lu family's power fall. He also spoke at the conference and told several stories about the Lu family's bullying that others didn't know about, and some people considered him an activist. After the debt settlement committee was organized, he said that Lu Shiyuan's father had used his family's money to repair the foundation of the house. Everyone also knew that he wanted to take advantage of it, so they recognized this account. Later, when he saw that Yuanhai Xiaochang and others had become cadres, he went to their homes to offer good things. When he saw that Lu Zhong had retained a lot of his property, he quietly went to apologize to Lu Zhong's mother. No need to mention him. That is an exquisite head, and it will never fall down. Mentioning Lu Zhong and Xiaodan, the second aunt naturally thought of Ruanin's matter again, and asked Jin Sheng. Jin Sheng said, "It's really hard to explain. The whole family has been idle all day long because of this matter. I think I might blame my father." If the second aunt has nothing else to do right now, she will come to my house and ask my mother to talk to you in detail. The second aunt agreed, and said goodbye to her husband and Jin Sheng and his wife, and an FA, and walked out. Jin Sheng said, "Bring the donkey to my place to feed it." As he said this, he took off the reins and pulled them on. The four of them came to Jutsai's house together. As soon as Jutsai's wife saw her second aunt, she first told her own sufferings. Her father is very stubborn and her daughter is disobedient. We suffer from both sides and can't afford to offend either. The second aunt couldn't tell the difference. Finally, ask her to talk in detail. She just started talking about it when she gave the gift. She said, after giving the gift, I told Ruanying, things are still the same, and the day is approaching. Some of the clothes he gave are too narrow to wear, and some are not suitable for wearing. You can take advantage of this. For 2 days, pick out what you can wear and change it into a few pieces. They ignored me at first, and after talking for 4 or 5 days, I started crying and doing a little bit. I also helped them do it. After taking it apart one by one and modifying it, the battle started before it was even sewn. By the time the Japanese had left, the Liu family had also fled, and September 13th had passed. Ruanying suddenly started talking and laughing. I told her father, can we settle our marriage with the Liu family? Her father said, let's see and then talk. This will not be solved yet. After a few days' delay, a senior official from the district came to launch a mass struggle against the Liu family. After capturing both the Liu family and his son, Xiao Baolai told Jin Sheng and Ruanying, I will definitely raise the issue of forced marriage at the conference tomorrow. Let's see what the Liu family has to say. Her father held her down and refused to scream. Her father said, I don't know how things have changed yet. You told him to offend someone else. Let's not offend anyone first. Later, it happened that Liu Shiyuan died but Liu Zhong did not. Others raised all the big and small issues, but we didn't mention our issue, so we let it go. By the time the struggle was over, the liquidation of the Liu family was finally over. I asked her father, does our marriage to Liu Zhong count? His father said again, let's take a look and talk about it. This meeting cannot be decided yet. I said, what else are you looking at? If Liu Zhong hadn't kept his filial piety to Liu Shiyuan, he would have chosen another date to marry. He said, a filial piety lasts for 3 years. What are you in a hurry for? Later, Xiaobao said that he had asked the staff member Gao, and the staff member Gao said that as long as the man and woman were unwilling, they could come up with reasons and go to the district to request an end of the engagement. I asked him if he could still return the gift. He said that he heard from staff member Gao that it would be fine as long as the items were returned. I learned this from her father, who scolded Xiaobao for not being provocative. When Ruanying heard that her father did not agree, she was stunned for a few days, and her father also became a little nervous. At this time, there happened to be a damn Xiaodan who did something bad again. He was a matchmaker, and you couldn't get anything out of his hands. When an FA said that Liu Zhong had brought him a few more taels of soil, he spoke to Liu Zhong again. He knew that I had changed my clothes, so he deliberately said, okay. As long as you can send back the things they sent you intact. If one piece is missing or broken, buy it as is. When an FA told his father complained about me again. What's the point of opening this mouth when you know it's going to happen all the time? And people don't have the ability to see before and after, you know who will rule the world in the future. Even I couldn't agree to it. On the 5th day of the 12th lunar month last year, her father said to Xiaobao's face, what's the business of coming to my place? Don't come here to talk nonsense again. Then he said to Ruanying, "The little kid is laughing and joking." Like what kind of rules? After Xiaobao left with a blushing face, Ruanying got into trouble with her father. Her father said, "If you dare to joke with those young people again, I will beat you to death." Ruanying said, "If you beat me to death, beat me to death. You're going to die anyway. Beating him to death is better than marrying Lu Zhong." Since then, my father has become angry and sick, and my daughter has been so angry that she has been crying for several days. I have tried to persuade both of them with good words, but to this day, the father and daughter have to contradict each other even if they can't even say a few words. Second sister, don't leave today. Stay here for a day or two and give me advice from both sides. The second aunt saw that her sister was crying and in trouble, so she agreed. The second aunt first went to check on Jutsai and said, "Brother-in-law, I heard that you feel unhappy." Jutsai said, "It doesn't matter. I'm a bit cold in the winter. I heard from the eldest sister that Ruanying doesn't listen to you, made you a little angry." When children talk, do you care what they do? Which one can still be taken seriously? Let's just worry about it. What a joke. What are you laughing at? I said that when the child is older, we will not care about the affairs of the two generations, but you can leave her alone to take care of her own affairs, she said deliberately. Ruanying is really dissatisfied with the Lu family's relationship. I heard that you can break it off if you want. Alas. Young people can just see what's happening on their eyelashes. Firstly, it is not easy to break, and secondly, if it breaks, I don't know whether it is a blessing or a curse. Japan had only retreated for 4 months. We haven't retreated 20 miles yet. Who can guarantee that we won't come back? If you offend Lu Zhong now, will Lu Zhong spare you by then? There is also Xiaodan, who is an activist on the one hand and Lu Zhong on the other. Is that the kind of person we can afford to offend? They are young people and do not think before and after things happen. If you find trouble, there will be no chance. Also, your eldest sister also told you last year that Ruanying's concerns are with Xiaobao, which I cannot agree with. On the one hand, it is not a rule, and on the other hand, if she keeps up with Xiaobao, I conclude that she will be poor for the rest of her life. That kid, Xiaobao. Not even talking about what is going on at home, I have no future, and I don't know what to do for myself. Last year, when people were fighting against the Lu family, he was also an activist, linking up with people here and there, shouting slogans to support others, but when it came time to settle the scores, he couldn't raise any big issues. He only said that he got 5 measures of millet for a few wages. Xiaodan misunderstood a problem and got a mule and a few stones of grain. He finally lived with the Lu family for a few years. Is he not even as good as Xiaodan? Do you think he is a fool? Just look at this. I knew he had to suffer poverty. If you want to keep up with Xiaobao, you have to marry Lu Zhong. Don't watch others suffer a struggle. In this village, he is still a small rich man. Now that Lu Shiyuan is dead and his reputation is gone, there are 3 or 4 people with dozens of acres of land for rent. Isn't it the pure sun and moon? The second aunt said, but I'm a little older. Jutsai said, a man should be 14 or 5 years older, that's a common thing in the world. The second aunt asked, in that case, your idea is to marry Lu Zhong? Jutsai said, no. My idea is to take a look and talk about it. It will take 3 years for Lu Zhong to obey. During these 3 years, we will see how things change. Marry Lu Zhong if it suits you, and if it doesn't suit you, you can't marry Xiao Bao anyway. Zhu Kai said this, and the second aunt thought, my uncle is still more knowledgeable. You should use these words to persuade Ruanying. The second aunt persuaded Ruanying. Ruanying, I want to ask you something. I heard that in the 12th month of the year, you said something against your father, which made your father unhappy. Ruanying said, second aunt, I'm not afraid of your jokes. I didn't mean to make my father angry, but with me at home, my father has to be angry. What can I do? How do you say this? Does your father dislike you too much? It's not that my father dislikes me too much. Or because of that dirty marriage. Now that my dad has shouted it out, I won't say whether it's ugly or not. Because I want to marry Xiao Bao, but I don't want to marry Lu Zhong. This girl said it happily. Young people, think before and after anything happens. What day do you not want to? When do you not want to? I don't know if I've thought about it thousands of times. Do you think you can afford to offend Lu Zhong? Thousands of people at the struggle meeting could offend him, but our family can't offend him. Young people just look at the things on their eyelashes. Your father said that the Japanese did not withdraw within 20 miles. How dare you guarantee that they will never come back? You offended Lu Zhong. Would Lu Zhong spare you at that time? My dad is like that, afraid of wolves in the front and tigers in the back. Didn't my grandfather come here to escape the famine? Can't we just run away when Japan comes again? If everyone thinks like him, Lu Shiyuan will not die even if it is 10 years later. Your father said that Xiao Bao has no future and doesn't know how to plan for himself. He has been an activist for a while and has no chance of turning over. Judging from this matter, I'm afraid I won't be able to survive in the future. If Xiaodan is promising, he will make plans for himself. If there is no problem, he will also fabricate problems to split them up. According to what he said, I should marry Xiaodan. Your father said that although the Lu family suffered a fight, they were still a small rich man in Xiahe. He is rich but not rich. It's not like I'm missing a father. Your father said that men who are 14 or 5 years older are a common thing in the world. Being a concubine and a maid is a common thing in the world. It is even more common in the world to hear a senior worker say that finding a man on one's own is a common thing. Is there any wishful thing in the world without me? Do I have to do all the bad things? Finally, the second aunt asked, according to what you said, your idea is that whether your father is willing or not, you are going to break up with Lu Zhong and marry Xiao Bao right away? Ruanying said, based on my original intention, shouldn't I count the happiness? But I do that. That really pissed my dad off. Dad is always dad, and I don't want to make him angry again. My idea is to take a look and talk about it. Lu Shiyuan just died. Lu Zhong is a stubborn old man. He must be made to observe 3 years of filial piety. Last August 15th to September 13th. You can change your mind in 27 days. 3 years is a long time. Can anything happen to the Lu family again? If he dies or runs away, I won't talk about it. If he doesn't die or runs away, I'll think of my own solution. Anyway, I won't marry him even if I die. If I don't die, I will marry Xiaobao. Ruaning finished. The second aunt felt that these words made more and more sense. Both people have their own truths, and the two sets of truths are incompatible with each other. There are two things in common: they both want to see it before talking about it, and they are willing to wait 3 years. The second aunt discussed the result of this conversation with Jutsai's wife. Both of them felt that they could not reconcile. But Jutsai's wife was relieved. She felt that her daughter was very sensible and knew how to cherish her father. She felt that although the two sets of principles were incompatible, in the past 3 years, they might be able to gradually gain agreement on who should agree with whom. She thought her daughter was right. Chapter 3. I can't even see it again. Jutsai and Ruaning both guessed right. There were indeed some big changes in the past 3 years, not to mention several deductions and reductions. The first big change was Japan's surrender in the autumn of the next year. The second big change was that in the winter of the third year there was another land reform movement, which required filling the land. The first big change was because Jutsai heard that Chiang Kai-shek was going to attack the 8th Route Army and wanted to see and then talk about it, but Ruaning's matter had not been touched yet, the second big change. Due to some other reasons, Jutsai couldn't see it anymore. The second big change came in 1946. In October of this year, one day, the district convened a coalition of cadres and activists. Yuanhai, Shaocheng, Xiaodan, Xiaobao, a total of more than 40 people participated. It will be open for 7 days. After they arrived in the district, the people in the village were confused. Some people heard from people in other districts that it was because the poor people had not completely recovered and they would launch a struggle. This word reached Lu Zhong's ears, and Lu Zhong went back to bury the things. It reached Ruaning's ears. Ruaning went back to prepare opinions. 7 days later, all the cadres and activists returned from the district. After dinner, the same group of 40 people held a fight meeting. Yuan Hai was the political director, and everyone elected him to be the chairman. Yuan Hai said, "Everyone has participated in the district meeting. That one will decide to ask us to come back to squeeze out the feudal society and help those who have not turned over to continue to turn around. How do we accomplish this task? Let's discuss who is still feudal. Who hasn't turned over yet? Who hasn't looked through it yet?" After he finished speaking, Shaocheng spoke. Shaocheng said, "I see there are still a few feudal households in our village, and the first one is Lu Zhong." Someone intercepted his words and said, "Lu Zhong and his sons have learned to farm and participate in production in recent years. I don't think they can be considered feudal." Shaocheng said, "What kind of land does he have?" "He has about 20 acres of self-cultivated land at home. They only hire part-time workers for half a year, relying entirely on the 40 acres of rented land outside. Isn't this a landlord? Isn't it a feudal force that exploits people?" Most people agreed with this opinion and counted Lu Zhong as one of the feudal tail households. Then, others mentioned 4 or 5 more households. There was some fact that they were exploiting people, and everyone agreed. The rest could not be brought up immediately, and the venue calmed down for a long time. Yuan Hai said, "I will add more when I think of it. Now let's calculate how many households in our village still have not turned over or have not turned over completely." Everyone said, "That's a lot." And Leaguai. and Anfa, and Xiaobao. All talked about a lot. Yuan Hai said, "Wait a minute. Let's count them one by one." Everyone started counting by street, and they counted 47 households. Yuan Hai counted with his fingers and said. The superiors said that this struggle was about filling in the gaps, which means cutting off the tail of feudalism to fill in the holes. Now I count. There are 5 or 6 feudal tails in total, and almost all of them have been liquidated several times, but there are 40 or 50 holes, so how can they be filled up? Xiaobao said. It's not flat, but it's not too small. These 5 or 6 households have a total of more than 3 hectares of land. For 57,350, one household can still be allocated 7 acres of land. I didn't hear the district committee say, it can't be absolutely equal, just let everyone have land to farm. Someone else said, is it just land repair? No repairs on the house? Don't make up for the extravagant wealth? Someone else said, are you just repairing the holes? Don't we need to divide the points further? Yuan Hai said, didn't the district committee say so in his speech? Doesn't it mean that we should no longer take care of those who have turned over? Xiaodan said, what does it mean to be thorough? If you are a cadre or an activist, you will offend others. The fruit you get out of the fight is just for filling holes, but you don't need to touch it yourself. Then we have to let the 47 whole households do it themselves. Anyone who has the ability will stand up, but if he doesn't, he won't have to stand up. We won't be that donkey for him. Yuan Boy said, Xiao Dan. You said that was wrong. Didn't the district chief say? Yuan Hai was about to criticize this selfish statement, but many people interrupted him, saying all at once, Xiao Dan is right. I won't do it until you touch it. I won't do it either. Whoever gets the fruit will fight. Yuan Hai waved his hands for a long time before he stopped everyone's shouting. Yuan Hai said, we should put public before private. If there are more fruits, in addition to filling the holes, everyone can naturally share some. Now that there are more people and less food, filling the holes can't be filled. Why should we go to the front first? We have already done a lot, and now we should help our poor brothers first. Xiao Chang said, let's take both public and private considerations into account. I don't think it's feasible to tell this group of people to be indifferent, because this task must be completed within 2 months. It can only be done by relying on this group of people. If we are afraid that the fruits will be too small to be divided, let's all think about whether we can find the tail of feudalism again. Many people agree with this opinion. Xiaodan said, some are feudal tales. Isn't Lu Xian still a feudal tale? When his father was alive. Haven't you been the head of the headquarters for decades? Aren't you the same as Lu Shiyuan later? Yuan Hai said, it's a lot to mention like you do. People like Xiaodan said, just mention it if it's too much. Wouldn't it be true that more can solve the problem? Yuan Hai said. But that was all 30 or 40 years ago. As far as I can remember, his family is no longer good, someone said. Now that it's no longer good, can I still pay for your 2 households? Yuan Hai said, is that something that was purchased later through labor? Someone else said, the one who came here won't pay his father an old debt? When Yuan Hai heard what they said, he was completely out of tune with the spirit of the district meeting, so he proposed that the district committee should correct them by saying what the district committee said about immovable middle peasants during the district meeting. Xiaodan and the others said at once, then asked the district chief to do it himself. Yuan Hai said, "Don't make excuses. If you have any good suggestions, please bring them up for discussion." Those people all said together, "No objection." From then on, no one spoke. Yuan Hai asked every question without saying anything, and just said, "No opinion." The venue was calm for a long time. Some people just whispered to each other and held a small meeting in twos and threes, mostly muttering, except for the households like Xian. Where would there be households? If there were dozens of households, how would it be our turn to share the fruits? Yuan Hai heard the news and was really in trouble. The superiors didn't want to disturb the middle peasants. Today, the middle peasants cannot be moved. On the one hand, there is nothing to fill the holes. On the other hand, if the activists do not get a share of the fruits, the task will not be completed. He walked around the venue again, and heard that not only activists, but also some cadres said they would not work if they could not get the fruits, which made him even more anxious. He turned around with his hands behind his back and couldn't think of a way. Xiao Chang said, "I think it's better to ask everyone to raise a household. Let's discuss it after bringing it up. If it should be done, do it. If it shouldn't be done, don't do it." Yuan Hai couldn't make up his mind for a while, so Xiao Chang said to everyone on his behalf, "Don't have small meetings, everyone. It's better to file an account." As soon as the mention of households was mentioned, the venue became lively again. More than 20 households were brought up, including gathering and making money. When mentioning households, Yuan Boy felt more and more something was wrong. He felt that they were all middle peasants. He said, "I can't defeat everyone by myself. But I don't think these households look like feudal tales. Let's discuss it one by one. If you want to say which household should fight, you have to come up with a condition." Xiao Chang said, "Okay. Let's talk about it one household at a time." Yuan Hai asked the recorder to read out the proposed households one by one, and for each household, he asked everyone to mention the conditions for this household to compete. Activists like Xiaodan are good at looking for conditions, saying that this family has let off a certain amount of money, and that other family has rented out 2 acres of land. Even if someone's grandfather beats someone or someone's grandmother scolded their daughter-in-law, it was considered a feudal condition. Although Yuan Hai, Xiao Bao and others who spoke justice strongly disagreed, De Feng fell on the side of, the more households, the better, and they could not turn around. Discuss the household that gathers wealth. Xiao Bao first raised objections. Xiao Bao said, "I think that family really shouldn't fight. They started by pioneering wasteland and have never exploited anyone's money. They have been exploited by the Lu family for 2 or 3 lives. They have only stood still in the past few years. Why should they be counted among them? Become feudal?" Before he finished speaking, someone shouted, "Object to shielding." A young man muttered behind Xiao Bao and said to Xiao Bao, "What else are you thinking about? Don't you remember they kicked you out?" Yuan Hai said, "Stop telling jokes. This family really can't fight. Other people's conditions. Regardless of whether it is feudalism or not, there is always a shadow. This family does not even have a shadow of feudalism. They have been exploited by feudalism more than me, Yuan Hai. If even he fights, I am afraid that even the rest of us will have to fight. What conditions do they have? He said this. Everyone also felt that it was really difficult to find the conditions, and the venue seemed to have to calm down for a while. Xiaodan was afraid of being left out, so she quickly said, "Yes, yes." Isn't it a big condition for him to marry the landlord? Xiaobao said, "Who doesn't know that it was forced by the Lu family? You are the matchmaker. I was the one carrying the food boxes, and Uncle Xiao Chang and Uncle Yuan Hai were also here. Who doesn't know what that is all about?" Xiaodan said, 3 matchmakers and 6 certificates, and the marriage is promised in person. How can it be considered forced? Why didn't he give his opinion when he was fighting Lu Shiyuan? Why are you so reluctant to break off the engagement after 2 or 3 years? Yuan Hai felt that it was outrageous for him to confuse right and wrong, so he asked him seriously, "Xiao Dan, are you telling a joke, or are you talking seriously? If it was done by someone else, you might not be able to figure it out. It's something you do yourself. Don't you know that you can only see it but not others?" Everyone knows the fact that after Yuan Ai touched him like this, Xiaodan never mentioned it again. But Jutsai's family also has a lot of land and has done everything well. In recent years, they have accumulated a lot of food, and some people are very jealous. I thought it would be a pity to let it go, so I found another condition. Only then did Yuan Hai push back Xiao Dan's words. Someone else said, "He has thoughts of changing the world." Isn't that always a condition? Several others said, yes. One said, he used to say that the Japanese would come again. After Japan surrendered, it was said that Chiang Kai-shek was coming. Another witness said, yes. Once he told an FA in the audience, and several people and I heard it. Another follower said, who did he listen to? These are all rumors created by secret agents. Ask him where he heard them. Which one is he connected to? Yuan Hai said, enough, enough. If you guess it again, you will be even better than Lu Shiyuan. We must fight against others, but we can only ask them to offer some land and some things. If they are kicked out like other feudal tales, we really feel sorry for them. Someone else said, the Lu family sent him so many good things. Since everyone else has separated from the landlord, they also asked him to break off the engagement with the Lu family and withdraw the good things and return them to the masses. Xiao Chang said, tomorrow the Lu family has just left, so are you afraid that he won't want to? Another person said, that's a batch of big fruits, and there are gold bracelets. Xiao Bao said, gold-plated. The man said, it's real gold. I saw his previous wife wearing it. Xiao Bao said, that pair did not belong to him. Yuan Hai has long been impatient when he sees that people like them only pay attention to things and don't follow the principles. Then he criticized them again and said, then he is what he is. What's the use of arguing? Can this family be settled? It's getting late, let's discuss others. Then they discussed making money. This household, even Xiaodan's, couldn't find any conditions to find a home, so he had to get rid of it. A total of 27 or 8 households were proposed. During the discussion, Yuan Hai and Xiao Bao, a few serious people, fought to move on, but in the end, there were still 21 households that could no longer go. Yuan Hai saw that most of the 21 households were middle peasants, but he still felt that it was inappropriate. I told several key cadres at the table, it's not appropriate to move so many middle peasants. Why don't we wait until the senior officials arrive in a few days before we do it? Xiao Chang said, the household has already made a decision. If we don't do it tomorrow, maybe whoever gets away with it will throw everything out. I don't think I have to wait. The wool comes from the sheep, so the holes in the river can only be filled in, and the senior staff can't bring us an acre of land. Xiao Chang is the director of the Farmers Association, and his words are powerful. When he says this, several other cadres agree with him, and it is considered a decision. It was already midnight and the discussion was over, so the meeting ended. Before leaving, Xiao Chang said, everyone has to keep the secret tonight. We won't be able to find out who got away tomorrow. Everyone said, of course, and walked out. Xiao Chang stopped Xiaodan again and said, Brother Dan, come to my place and I will have a word with you. Xiaodan followed him and walked out with everyone. Xiaobao wanted to send a letter to the Jutsai family, but felt that it was not good to not abide by the discipline at the meeting. When he got home, he fell asleep and couldn't fall asleep, feeling that he couldn't communicate. Xian always feels sorry. Then he put on his clothes again and went to Jutsai's house. He called Jin Xing outside the door, and Jin Xing opened the door for him and took him into his room to talk. He told Jin Xing everything about the discussion on gathering wealth at the meeting and asked them to make preparations. Jin Xing asked him who else had decided, and he said, just sending you a letter would be a violation of discipline. Nothing else can be said. Jin Xing paid attention to his own family affairs, and had no intention of asking anyone else, so he sent Xiao Bao out. The worst thing was that as soon as Xiao Bao went out, he met Xiao Dan walking back from Xiao Chang's place. Everyone could see who was on the other side, but they passed without speaking to anyone. A mass meeting was held the next day, and Xiao Chang was the chairman. After the meeting, we first talked about squeezing out the feudal society and filling it in, and then asked everyone to register their households. The people in the village have already experienced this. Knowing that it had already been arranged, coming to the conference to bring it up was just a show, so I waited for the activists to bring it up and didn't say anything myself. An activist first brought up Lu Zhong and explained the conditions for him to be the tail of the feudal society. Other activists shouted slogans of defeat, and then asked, what should we do? Another activist proposed getting kicked out, and others shouted, yes, and then they voted by a show of hands. Because the Lu family used to force too many people to be kicked out. This time, everyone thought he should be kicked out, especially many who raised their fists. After passing Lu Zhong, he then proposed which households really had the conditions. At this time, the cadres and activists naturally still had the same enthusiasm, and other people also supported it. There are also those who don't even bother to raise their fists. Anyway, if they raise their hands, no one will count them, so more or less they can pass. After these households passed by, Lu Xian was brought up. As soon as this household was mentioned, the venue became a little uneasy, looking from people's heads. It was like the wind blowing in the sorghum field. You met me and I faced you, no one knew what to say, and all they could hear was like a group of primary school students reading in low voices. When the leader asked Lu Zhong to be kicked out, Xian raised his hand. This would be mentioned above his head. It was something he couldn't have imagined. Xiaoxi was very close to him and asked him quietly, why are you still there? He said, I don't know. Xiaoxi asked again, I don't know if I am there? He said again, I don't know. He again, after hearing an activist mention that his feudal condition was that his father had been the head of the society, he said loudly. That was 30 or 40 years ago. Ever since my father died and my mother was in charge of the family, she has been so poor that she can't even put food on the table. The activists did not listen to what he had to say and started shouting, Father's debt must be repaid, opposed the feudal tale clever argument, don't listen to what he said, let's vote, when voting. In the meeting of 500 to 600 people, only about 40 cadres and activists raised their fists here and there, and the masses couldn't figure out whether they would raise their fists. Not only did they not, if people count them without even bothering to look at them, they will pass. From Xi'an on down, several households of middle peasants were mentioned, some decided to confiscate it, and some asked to donate their land and things. At first, they put forward conditions, and I defended them a few words. However, before the latter households finished mentioning the conditions, they all said, there's no need to mention that, just say it's confiscated, so let's donate it. When it came to Zhu Kai's name, Zhu Kai was well prepared and handled it smoothly. He passed without any trouble and decided to ask his daughter to terminate the engagement with Lu Zhong and withdraw all the gifts he received as confiscated Lu Zhong's things. Then he donated more than 10 acres of good land in the ditch and 20 stones of wheat. At this time, Xiaodan ran to Xiaocheng and whispered, bring it up. Xiaocheng nodded. Xiaodan said loudly, the problem of Jutsai is over. There is still a lackey in Jutsai. I suggest that we also have a fight. Other activists asked who it was, and Xiaodan said, do you see how smoothly Jutsai was socializing today? They have been prepared for it. Last night, we had a meeting with people who came back from the district meeting to discuss today's work. After the meeting, Xiaobao ran to Jutsai's house to get some fresh air. It wasn't until midnight that I saw him come out of Jutsai's house in person. This time around Do Jutsai, I should give him a ride. When other activists heard this, they almost all said that Xiaobao was shameful for doing this. Some people shouted, tell him to confess. Xiaobao said, what are you confessing? Who can't stop walking around other people's homes? How could he meet me after midnight if he didn't go to someone else's house? Xiaocheng said, Xiaobao, don't talk nonsense. Brother Xiaodan, I called him to talk, not to the home of someone I'm fighting against. Someone else said, you can't talk nonsense. You tell me what you want. Xiaobao said, what else are you talking about? If you say you should fight, then fight. This made them speechless. Because Xiaobao's family only has 3 or 4 acres of sloping land and has no time to farm it, half of it is deserted and half of it is ripe, and he doesn't harvest a few grains a year. Support his mother with your own wages. I used to drive mules for the Lu family, but in the past few years when the Lu family collapsed, I drove mules for the cooperative again. Anyway, I was just living as a bare man, and if I wanted to fight him, I couldn't achieve much fruit. After a while, someone said, we can no longer call him an activist. Xiaobao said, if it doesn't count, it doesn't count. I won't give him any fruit this time. If you don't give me a share, I'll be considered a loser. Have you lived without fruit in the past few years? Don't ask him to drive mules for the cooperative. If you don't rush, don't rush. I'll look for a boss again. Xiaodan and those people. No matter how you blackmail people, there is nothing you can do when you encounter this useless person. Someone said, forget it. Don't waste this idle time. Mention other households. If others didn't say anything, Xiaobao's household would be over. It will be open from after breakfast until noon. After passing through all 21 households, they dispersed. After lunch, the cadres and activists divided into groups and went to each household that decided to confiscate the items to register the items, but Xiaobao was not asked to go. After Jutsai returned home, he didn't even eat lunch. It's like a dream and I can't figure out why I can call people a feudal fighter. During dinner, the family sat together and worried. The ground was cramping their muscles, and the remaining slopes could not support the family. The food only gave them 20 shur of wheat, although there was still some coarse grains. It is also a stagnant water nest, with a bucket of food and a bucket of food. Unexpectedly, the father and son had been working on the wasteland for many years, and they fell down again just after they stopped standing. The wife complained that he didn't break off the engagement with the Liu family earlier, but he said that it wouldn't matter if he broke off, and they would find other problems. The wife also said that everything would be fine if he made money. It can be seen that it might be okay to retreat. The two of them were arguing, and an FA came again with Xiaodan. Jutsai felt that no matter where Xiaodan went, nothing auspicious happened, so he hurriedly asked Anfa what happened. An FA said, "What's the matter?" "I'm worried about personnel matters." Xiaodan said, "Anfa, this can't delay the time any longer. Just tell your brother-in-law." Anfa called Jutsai aside and said, "He's here again to do matchmaking for Ruanying." Xiaocheng asked him to be a matchmaker and asked Ruanying to marry him to Xiaogui. He said that if he wanted to, he could ask for a few acres of good land back. He caught me opening the gift list for the Liu family in the past, and wanted to say that I had received a real gold bracelet from the Liu family, and asked the people to ask for it from me. When Jutsai came back from the conference, he was so angry that he had nowhere to go. "Even if I encounter a tiger, I want to pull out a few hairs." So before an FA could say anything else, he jumped up and said, "What the hell? It's my fault that I have a daughter. My daughter won't get married. The Liu family also gave me a gold mountain. In Shan. Whoever has the ability should ask him to come." His wife and Jin Sheng, Ruanying. When I heard him yelling, I was afraid that he would get into trouble, so I quickly ran over to persuade him. His wife said, "My dad. Why are you so anxious?" Then she pointed at Xiaodan and whispered, "Is that thing easy to mess with?" Jutsai said, "He should just kill me. Do I still have a long life? Just make me go out. Will I not follow my father's example and escape? Which one of them makes me angry, I will fight with him. Everyone must die once in his life, so what are you afraid of?" The three of them saw that he was so angry that he couldn't tell the whole story, so they asked Anfa. And Fatsai told them about Xiaodan's matchmaking again. Xiaodan usually seems to be very powerful, but if someone is really willing to fight with him, he doesn't have the guts. She was just having an attack of wealth, so she clenched her fists and squatted on the Kong, waiting for him to answer. But he sat silently by the fire and smoked a cigarette. At this time, Ruanying was already a 20-year-old eldest daughter, and she was already somewhat sure of things to come. After hearing her uncle explain Xiaodan's purpose, she studied it over and over again. She thought, Speaking angry words means speaking angry words. To do practical things is to do practical things. Now Xiao Chang is the director of the Farmers Association and also a main cadre. He is responsible for deciding matters in the village and cannot afford to mess with them. The good land in my home is being taken away. If I can follow some small prosperity, I might be able to ask for some of it back. It's just that Xiao Chang wants to marry Xiao Gui, which is naturally not careless. Anyway, no one can marry him except Xiao Bao. She wanted to follow Xiao Chang, but she couldn't marry Xiao Gui, so it was difficult. After thinking about it over and over again, she suddenly realized that Xiao Gui was only 14 years old. She immediately got an idea. She thought, I heard from Xiao Bao that men can only get engaged if they are over 17 years old, the regulations of Shaanxi, Hebei, Luyu, etc. at that time. Xiao Chang is a cadre, so he would not dare to ask his 14-year-old child to register in the district. Today, Xiaodan will be sent. It's just a private matter. From now on, I just write a post like other parents who preside over weddings. I agreed to him, and after the struggle, when it was time for him to marry me, I said it didn't happen. He couldn't see the official, but he could only meet the official. I said he forced my father to agree to it, and I didn't want to. There was nothing he could do. After she made up her mind, she went to the stove and poured a cup of water for Xiaodan, and said to Xiaodan, "Uncle, please drink water. My dad is furious. Don't care. When it comes to my own affairs, I am older and now I can make my own decisions, just tell me." If my father didn't want me to slowly persuade him, he wouldn't be able to take charge of my affairs. When Xiaodan saw that someone was ignoring him, she originally wanted to say a few strong words but then changed her face. But then she felt that such a beautiful girl was bringing tea and water to her, so she wanted to say a few more words. It would be better to talk nonsense with him, so he started talking to Ruanying. Xiaodan said, 3 matchmakers are good, but it has nothing to do with me whether the 2 will succeed or not. In the past, I couldn't tell you children these things directly, but now I can make the decision myself. Uncle will tell you a little bit. What do you think of Xiachang's house? Ruanying said, not bad. He is a newly reborn householder and a high-ranking cadre. He has a house and land. How can he still rely on it? No matter which company it is it still better than Lu Zhong? Xiaodan felt that she was a little willing. So he deliberately said, it's just that the children are smaller. Isn't that right? Ruanying smiled deliberately and said, the little ones will grow up slowly. The big ones can't shrink to the small ones, and the small ones can't grow to the big ones. Seeing that this tone was getting closer, Xiaodan called an FA, and Jutsai's wife followed. Xiaodan told Ruanying what he wanted, and Jutsai's wife said to Ruanying, now we have this new rule, you can see for yourself. Ruanying said, I am already so old. Hujan just stay at home. What's the big deal? That's how we settled the matter. Xiaodan said before leaving, okay. Let's choose a better day and post a post later. After Xiaodan left, Anfa asked Ruanying, are you really willing, or are you afraid that he will get angry with your father? Ruanying said, that's it. I don't know if you are willing or not. And FA just assumed that she was willing and left. After Anfa left, Jutsai and his wife asked Ruanying again, are you really willing or are you being wronged? Ruanying said, let's talk about it after one step. They only thought that she was afraid that her father would not be able to make it, so she had to submit. Xiaobao heard about it the next day and quietly said to Ruanying, "You have found a good master." Ruanying said, "I want to kill his head. Does his temple still want to let go of me, a god?" Then he told Xiaobao his plan in detail, and sued him. "When you go outside, you must deliberately just accuse me of losing my conscience." Chapter 4. This is really a place for reasoning. Zhu Kai had been sick from anger since the year when Lu Jiaqiang was about to marry Ruanying. He had constant stomachaches for 3 days and 2. After being beaten, he spent more time in the past year. Because he was a little angry again, the food was not good, and he committed more crimes. A little more. In November of this year, 1947, the government promulgated the land law, and a work group came to the village. He was not sure what to do. He only said that they wanted to fight against him again, and then he got sick again. In addition to stomachache, he often couldn't sleep in the middle of the night, and he didn't get out of bed for more than 10 days. Rush to divide the class, classify him as a middle peasant. During the party consolidation, the cadres made it clear that they had fought against him wrongly, and his illness was getting better day by day. In the 12th lunar month, when the compensation was implemented, 10 acres of good land were compensated for him, and he was almost as good as usual again. He still had another unsolved problem on his mind. It's Ruanying's marriage problem. Since joining the work team, Xiaobao has often come to Ruanying, saying that he must figure out this matter. He still has his old thinking and doesn't want to offend people too much. He thought, if we make a mistake in fighting, we will admit our mistake and make amends. Although I haven't replenished my original number, I still have enough to plant, so why bother with it anymore? People like Xiaodan and Xiao Chang are not easy to mess with. Even if they can be defeated now, it will still be troublesome for them to retaliate in the future. He often used these words to persuade Ruanying. Ruanying didn't listen to him. Once, he told Ruanying this truth over and over again in the middle of the night. Ruanying said, "Whoever is not afraid of offending me, I will not be afraid of offending anyone. I think if I offended Xiaodan once in the Dou family, maybe there will be less trouble later." The 24th day of the 12th lunar month. After breakfast, the village branch sent someone to see Ruanying, saying that there was something that she couldn't understand unless she went to prove it. As soon as something happened, both Jutsai and Ruanying knew what it was, but Ruanying had long wanted to find out. Jutsai was just afraid that she would offend someone. So when Ruanying left, Jutsai was worried, and then he sneaked away to see the scenery. Since the party was reorganized, the village branch confiscated the front yard of Lu's house last year to hold meetings in the East Room. In this courtyard, the work group lives in the South Room. The East Room is where the branch holds party meetings, and the West Room is where the Farmers Association has its offices. On the day of the call for Ruanying, the party consolidation subsidies were almost coming to an end. In the West Room, the Peasants' Association Committee was meeting to plan the realignment of the house. In the East Room, the branch held a meeting to study several disagreements between party members and the masses. Jutsai was not a member of the Farmers' Association and not a party member. No one in the branch or the Farmers' Association had ever called him, so he did not come to the front yard and only went to the backyard to look for Anfa. He was going to ask Anfa to inquire for him. As soon as he entered the door, an FA saw that he couldn't even hold a stick, so he said to him, "Man, now you have lost your begging stick." Jutsai smiled and said, "As long as you don't count us as one feudal, we won't be sick anymore." An FA said, "If we still count you as a feudal, will it be your turn to plant the 5 acres of good land outside my pavilion?" Jutsai said, "You are also a member of the Farmers Association. After fighting for our 15 acres of land, you only managed to replenish 10 acres. Why don't you let us fight for it? Since you said it was a mistake to fight me, why not return my original land?" Anfa said, "Forget it, forget it. When it comes to land replenishment, you still don't know how difficult it is for everyone." The working group, the Farmers' Congress and the Farmers' Association Committee studied for more than 10 days before they came up with this method. Do you want to fight the land of landlords? A lot of it was occupied by cadres and activists, and the land belonging to the fighting middle peasants was divided among the poor and labored peasants. Nowadays, the majority of cadres and activists have been withdrawn, and the middle peasants have been provided with supplies, and the landlords and rich peasants who have been forced out of their homes have been resettled. The entire village has been subsidized and only more than 50 households have been affected. If we ask the poor peasants and laborers to withdraw from the land allocated to the middle peasants, and then allocate more land to the cadres and activists who have withdrawn, then more than 150 households will have to be moved. There are a total of 200 families in a village. If more than 150 households are to be moved, isn't it going to cause chaos in the whole village? I think we did pretty well this time, but everyone's land went in a circle. Last year, you gave me 3 acres of your 15 acres of land. This year, when Xiaochang quit the pavilion, I gave you 5 acres of land. That land was blackmailed from me by Lu Shiyuan. After the fight, Lu Shiyuan returned to Xiaochang. Xiaochang quit and replaced you, but yours was given to me. Isn't this a big circle? Jutsai said, if Xiaochang doesn't occupy too much, and allocates the land outside your pavilion to you early, then this circle will not change. You don't need to call me a feudal this year. Anfa said, they have already reviewed this. It is because they have overoccupied the land and there are many holes without repairs that they have taken advantage of the middle peasants, which has made you a feudal for a year. This time is more fair than any other time. Except for the middle peasants who have not been affected, each person should be paid 2.7 mu according to the number of acres, and 5 dan per person according to the output. There will be no compensation for 1/10 more than the other, and there will be no compensation for 1/10 less. Those who are too good or too bad will be paid. Just change it and forget about it. Don't you think your acres are too small? According to the original production, I can give you 20 acres, as long as you don't think it's bad. Jutsai said, I'm joking with you. I feel very satisfied with the supplement this time. We don't want to be landlords. No matter whether we suffer a loss or gain advantage, as long as we can live a good life. Man! Aren't you a committee member? Why don't you go to the meeting? An FA said, today we discussed house adjustments, and the people who went to the village to register for the Farmers Association house have not come back yet. Ju Kai said, the branch sent someone to call Ruanying. This child, I'm afraid she doesn't understand the importance of what she says. No matter who we offend, we won't be in trouble. Stop looking for trouble. You are going to have a meeting in the west room in the front yard. Pay attention to see if she says anything obstructive. Anfa said, don't worry about her. I think other people's children are better than us. All our lives we are just afraid of offending others, and we just want something to happen. Because the more afraid we are of offending others, the less afraid they will be of offending us. Ju Kai felt that what he said made sense. Just as he was talking, Lao Guai came in. After greeting Ju Kai, he sat down and said to an FA, "You are the leader of our poor peasant group. House. Can you give me some advice on adjusting my accommodation?" Anfa said, "Didn't you mention it at the group meeting last time? You have been transferred to the Farmers Association." Jutsai said, "Laoguai. Is that okay this year?" Laoguai said, "Okay. With a few acres of land, we have food and clothing, but we lack a place to live. Even when I beat a few grains, water leaked out." Xiaodan also came to see Anfa. He said, "Anfa, the supplement collection is almost over. Is my entry into the Poor Peasants League considered passed?" Anfa said, "Another instruction came from the superiors, saying that in places like ours where there are not many poor farmers, we should only set up poor farmers groups under the Farmers Association. The Poor Peasants League will no longer be established." Xiaodan said, "Let's just talk about the Poor Peasants group. It doesn't matter what the poor peasants are, anyway. I am a poor peasant, why don't you want me?" When the working group first came, I first connected with the poor peasants and gave advice to the cadres first. "Why didn't you want me when organizing the poor peasants?" Anfa said, "The supplementation is almost over. What's the use of you still arguing about it now?" Xiaodan said, Let me tell you that this subsidy is far worse. The working group does not know the details, and the extravagant wealth that the cadres and party members have received is as if they have not been withdrawn. Can the problem be solved just by everyone's self-reflection and a little bit of triviality? I heard from the working group that this is the only time to make up for it. If we, the poor peasants, don't chase after us, we will only be able to take care of the people who have been wiped out with the little money they have saved in the Peasant Association. Where can we get it under our name?" Anfa said, "We don't want to make that foreign fortune either." At the mass meeting that day, you didn't listen to the leader of the work group who said, "Platitude does not mean that every stitch and thread must be level, it just means that everyone can produce and live a life." I think the land has been replenished and the houses have been adjusted. Those households that are still unable to live are the households that have been evicted. The Farmers Association has saved things and replenished the households. It's not like we are really a family that cannot live. We will slowly produce more in the future. Live it. When Xiaodan heard that something was wrong, she walked away. Before she left, she said, "No matter what, I'm still willing to join the group anyway. You can mention it to me again when your group has a meeting." He didn't even reply. "If you don't listen, you will walk out. It seems that you are no longer motivated to join the group." He walked away, and Jutsai said in a low voice, "Damn it. He wants to come up with good ideas again." Anfa said, "As soon as the work group came, he became an activist again and gave many opinions to the cadres. Later, the work team found out who he was. He was not asked to join the poor peasant group. According to the opinions he gave to the cadres, he made them worse than Lu Shiyuan." Jutsai said in a low voice, "Like those cadres from Shaochang, they are similar to Lu Shiyuan, but Xiaodan can't talk about them, He is much worse than them. Without him, Xiaocheng might not be so bad. Anfa said, there are not many cadres like Xiaocheng. But Xiaocheng is different from Lu Shiyuan. Lu Shiyuan was born to be the enemy of the poor, but Xiaocheng has also done some good things for the poor, such as defeating Lu Shiyuan. Like filling in the gaps, he has really contributed, but when he gets more power, he becomes reckless again. Xiao Dan's opinion was not just about who is good and who is bad. He said, there is not a single good person, they are all a bunch of bad guys, and everyone has a lot of corruption. If you don't buckle them all up and let the crowd chase them one by one, they won't spit it out. Leaguai said, he wants to chase someone else. He didn't say that he was divided among the first fruits, but the mules, grain, and clothes were divided among the caves. What is eaten, what is sold. You have several times more than others, but you still vomit? Jutsai said, it would be unfair to say that there are no good cadres. Good ones are good. I think people like Yuan Hai are pretty good. Anfa said, of course. How about the masses elect someone to be the chairman of the new peasant association? While they were chatting, the dog shouted in the yard, Mom! The second aunt is here. When Anfa's wife heard that the second aunt was here, she ran out of the apartment, and Anfa and the others also came out to welcome her. Lao Guai had nothing else to do, so he casually socialized with the guests by the door for a few words and then left. The dog led the second aunt in and asked, Second aunt, why didn't you ride a donkey? The second aunt said, you asked your uncle to sell the donkey, and you still ride on the dog's ass? The dog smiled again and said, Second aunt, do you remember that I asked you for help when I met you a few years ago? The second aunt also smiled and said, the dog is older and more sensible after all. What do you want? Don't you want peanuts? It won't work this year. Your uncle ate the peanut seeds and sold his donkey in the spring because he was afraid of the struggle. Eldest brother-in-law, I heard that you have been sick for a few days, but I didn't come to see you. Are you feeling better these days? Jutsai said, it's been much better these days. Is there nothing going on in your family? The second aunt said, it's okay, I'm just very flustered. I heard that you have a work group here. Some say they are here to engage in struggle, and some say they are here to punish cadres. I don't know what they are going to do. I said it's the new year, but I can't really believe it, and I feel uneasy during the new year, so why not come and find out? Jutsai said, well done this time. Don't be afraid. Then he and Anfa prepared to carry out various tasks such as class division, compensation for middle peasants, placement of landlords and rich peasants, party rectification. I introduced them all to my second aunt. Halfway through the introduction, I suddenly heard a quarrel in the front yard. After hearing this, Jutsai heard, this is what Xiao Bao said. Anfa, why don't you go and see if there is something wrong with Ruanying? Anfa said, let's all go and have a look. Jutsai said, can you go too? Anfa said, can. There are party rectification meetings held these days, and many people come to see them. With that said, the three of them came to the front yard. Today's party consolidation meeting was held in the courtyard. The door to the north room was closed. The Communist Party flag and Chairman Mao's portrait were hung in the middle. There was a table and some chairs and stools. The comrades of the work group were sitting on the stage, including the district chief and senior staff members. Yuan Hai stood behind the table as the chairman. Sitting in front of the stage were 17 party members. Although Ruanying and Xiaobao were not party members, because he was called by the branch, he also sat in front. Behind them are the visitors. When Jutsai and the others entered, they met Xiao Chang standing and speaking. I don't know what he had said before, but he was saying, I have no hatred against you. I am a Communist Party member. You can't watch a comrade get close to someone who thinks about changing the world. You cannot watch a comrade deliver information to the target of struggle. You can't watch a gay seduce other young women. We don't want people like this in our party. Besides, I wasn't the one who made the decision to expel you. I proposed it, the branch approved it, branch secretary Yuan Hai reported it, and the district committee approved it. How can it all be charged to my account now? After hearing this half-word, Jutsai seemed to understand that he was talking about Xiaobao, and he also understood. Have thoughts of changing the world, and object of struggle, refers to himself, and he also understands that seduce young women refers to the relationship between Xiaobao and Ruanying, but he doesn't understand what fired means. Xiao Chang said, sit down. Xiaobao stand up and say, I say. Ruanying stood up and said, I said. Yuan Hai said. Xiaobao says it first. Xiaobao said, I have nothing to say when the party expels me, because no matter whether we fight wrongly or not, Ruanying's father was still the target of the struggle at that time. The conference decided not to say anything. I said it because I violated discipline and should be expelled. But I want to ask, since he is a member of the Communist Party. He is also a branch member and the director of the Farmers Association. Why did he fight with someone during the day and then send Xiaodan to force his daughter to get engaged to his child at night? Then they are not the object of struggle? There is no thinking about changing the sky anymore? Said I shouldn't seduce young women. Is forcing better than seducing? I, as a party member, should be expelled, but he, as a party member, should still be a branch committee member? Before Xiaobao sat down, Xiao Chang stood up again and said, it's obviously voluntary. How can you say I'm forced? Yuan Hai pointed at Xiao Chang and said, why have you always been unruly? It's your turn to say it. Wait until Ruanying says it. Sit down. Xiao Chang sat down again. Ju Kai quietly said to an FA, this meeting has some rules. Anfa nodded. Ruanying stood up and said, senior staff often tell us here. Women must have autonomy in marriage. I was close to Xiaobao, and even my parents didn't hide it from me. Why did the director say that she was seduce me? If even getting too close becomes a crime, then what's the point of being independent? The director also said that I voluntarily married his child. How could I be such a fool? I am also in my 20s. I won't marry anyone of the same age, but I am attracted to a 14-year-old or 15-year-old kid? If it wasn't force, why did I ask my father for a gold bracelet? Ruanying finished speaking. Xiao Chang stood up again and said, shall I say it? I think Xiaodan must be asked to do this. You guys have figured it out and insist that I want a gold bracelet. I asked Xiaodan to tell me, who mentioned the gold bracelet to him. Some people visiting from behind said, do you still need to call me Xiaodan? Jutsai and Anfa are both here, Why can't they be asked to talk to each other? Jutsai said from afar, if you don't ask me for the gold bracelet, I might be less sick for a few days. It's better to find Xiaodan. Don't let people say that we are screwed. Yuan Hai said, I think it's better to go find Xiaodan. We've talked about asking for the gold bracelet more than once. If you don't prove it, I'm afraid there will be no results if you talk about it. Other party members also advocated asking Xiaodan to prove it, so Yuan Hai sent the village correspondent to find it. At this time, the person who registered the house of the Peasant Association also came back. Anfa and other Farmers Association committee members went back to the West Room to discuss the adjustment of the house. Yuan Hai was the chairman of the new Peasants Association, but because he was the chairman at the party consolidation meeting, he had to entrust the affairs in the West Room to the vice chairman. After a while, Xiaodan came. The party meeting resumed. Xiaochang said, Brother Xiaodan, are you saying that your matchmaking for me was voluntary or forced? Xiaodan wanted to clean himself up, so he said, I mean what I said, no one is biased. Who are you hurting? The director was wrong, and I also expressed my opinion. But this matter was not forced on her by her director. Now that we are independent, when the director asked me to go, I told Ruanying personally. At that time, she poured me a cup of water and told me. Then she told Ruanying what she said after pouring the water for him. He said it in detail and truthfully, and then said, I said this is not a lie. If you don't believe it, you can ask Anfa. Ruanying said, no need to ask my uncle, this sentence is not bad, but it's a pity that I didn't start from the beginning, let me make up for it. It was the night we fought with my father, Uncle Xiaodan, no, Xiaodan. I will never call him uncle again. Xiaodan called my uncle to my house, and first asked my uncle to tell my father that the director wanted you to marry Ruanying to their child. He said that he could ask for a few acres of land back from him. If you don't comply, you will say that my father received a gold bracelet from the Liu family. The director confiscated the Liu family's gold bracelet and took it back, who didn't know that it was later sold to a bank. At that time, when my father wanted to get up, what did my father give to others? I'm afraid my dad will suffer. I just poured a cup of water for Xiaodan and told him a lot of lies. Do you think this is considered voluntary? He, Xiaodan, fools people every day, so why don't you fall for my trick once? Xiaodan wanted to interrupt her for a long time, but unfortunately he couldn't find an opportunity. When he heard her say something about himself. Tian is coaxing people. He immediately jumped up and pointed at Ruanying and shouted, clean your mouth. Who coaxes people every day? Worker Gao stopped him and said, Xiaodan, what are you causing trouble? Chu told you. I still don't know who you are. Xiaodan finally sat down again. Someone in the visiting crowd whispered, what are you arguing for? Who else but Xiaodan would do this? Without waiting for Xiaochang to answer, other party members started questioning each other. Xiaochang. How decent is a party member like you? Xiaochang. Have you reported this to the branch? Xiaochang. What have you been reflecting on these days? Yuan Hai was so angry that he pointed at him and asked, with a party member like you, how can our party meet people? With tears in his eyes, Xiaochang begged Xiaodan and said, Brother Xiaodan, you speak with your conscience. I ask you to be a matchmaker, and I ask you to ask someone for a gold bracelet? Xiaodan said. Let me be completely honest. On the first night of the struggle meeting, you called me to your house and asked me to do this for you. You say, the struggle will be over tomorrow, it's easier to take advantage of this hot spot. I said that people have wanted freedom for Xiaobao for a long time. You said, can't you think of a way to push Xiaobao aside first? It happened that when I went back that night, I met Xiaobao and Zhukaijia coming out. The next morning, I discussed with you that we should fight Xiaobao first. You said it was okay, and we also fought Xiaobao that day. In the evening I went to call on Fa. Stopped by your place to ask for advice. I said, what if I don't agree? You said, you have to figure it out. You can still think of a way to deal with Xiaobao, but are you afraid that you can't deal with Jutsai? You still don't know who I am? You tell me to figure it out. How can I scare people if I don't come up with some bad ideas? It was me who came up with the idea for the gold bracelet, but you are the boss. After hearing what Xiaodan said, Jutsai also spoke behind him. He said, I have lived 54 years before I saw Xiaodan tell the truth once. This is really a place of reasoning. After he said these two words, his suffocation was gone, and he sat down to rest comfortably. He no longer thought about being afraid of their revenge. Xiaobao stood up again and said, Chairman. This always proves who arranged the fight for me, right? This always proves that you need a gold bracelet, right? This can always prove whether it is forced or voluntary, right? Another party member said, Chairman. This is the only thing I propose to fire Xiao Chang. Several other party members said, I also second the motion, I also second the motion. Yuan Hai said to everyone, I think this matter has been explained, so let's end the meeting at noon today. I think we should discuss the issue of punishment later, because Xiao Chang has many things to do, and his punishment cannot be determined based on this incident alone. Now let's ask the team leader to give a speech. The leader of the working group stood up and said, Xiaobao has reported this matter since the working group came here. We did not pursue it for a long time in order to let Xiao Chang reflect on himself. Judging from the actual situation that was investigated today, Xiao Chang's reflection is all nonsense. Xiao Chang. What do you think this is? In order to get his child engaged, he staged struggles within and outside the party to attack his comrades, and used gangsters to threaten other women and steal his comrades' love partners. This is completely based on the tricks of landlords. How does it sound like something done by a party member? The most unforgivable thing is that you have been reflecting in the party for more than a month without mentioning the truth of this matter. You defend yourself whenever others mention it. How do you look like a person who is willing to change? Let me give you a chance to reflect that you still don't know how to love yourself. Who else can save you? Your behavior should be punished by the party. In addition, I have to talk about Xiaodan. Xiaodan. We are holding a party consolidation meeting today. Since you're not a party member, this meeting will naturally not be favorable to you. But I can send you a message first. Don't think you can be an activist forever. No one in Xiahe village will recognize your bones. After the land reform, the masses rose up. I can no longer ask you to show off your teeth and claws like before. If you have offended anyone in the past, you should honestly go to them to apologize and admit your mistakes. People tolerate you. It's your advantage, If they don't tolerate you, just go to the people's court with them. If you deserve to be imprisoned, go to jail, and if you deserve to be shot, be shot. That's your own fault, you can't blame anyone else. After the team leader finished speaking, Yuan Hai announced that the meeting was adjourned. Everyone was standing up to leave when Ruanying said, "Slow down. Can I be considered independent in my marriage?" The district chief said, "The party consolidation meeting has nothing to do with this matter. Let me reply to you on behalf of the regime, your relationship with Xiao Bao is legal. Whenever you want to get engaged, just go to the district to register, and no one else can interfere." After the meeting, the second aunt squeezed in front of the team leader of the work group and said, "Team leader, I am from Shanghai. Can't your work group invite us to work in Shanghai?" The team leader said, "We will go in the first month of next year."